per hour. The storm system is on the move several hundred miles north of San Diego, passing through central Nevada at roughly 29 miles per hour. At the rate it's going, Hillary is forecast to lose steam and dissipate before the end of the day. 13 people are alive after the San Diego Fire Rescue Department swiftwater crew saved them from the fast-moving waters from the San Diego River. They were part of a homeless encampment in a dry riverbed that quickly filled up as tropical storm waters from Hillary moved through the region last night. 2 people were treated for hypothermia. President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are set to visit Hawaii today. More from Julie Ryan.
They'll meet with first responders and survivors and tour areas impacted by recent wildfires that have killed at least 114 people. Officials estimate roughly 1,000 more could still be unaccounted for. The blaze that tore through the town of Lahaina on the island of Maui is the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. In a statement Sunday, Biden said he'll do everything in his power to help Maui recover and rebuild while respecting sacred lands, cultures, and traditions.
Former Vice President Mike Pence hopes his former boss will be at Wednesday's Republican presidential debate. Speaking on ABC's This Week, Pence said serving with former President Trump for 4 years has taught him it's not over till it's over.
I'm actually still hoping he shows up.
Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Coffee Ann, the longest-running panel discussion show in American radio. To make a comment or ask a question of the panel, call 401-766-1240 or email coffee@woonsocketradio.com. And now, let's join the Coffee Ann panel.
Well, good morning, everybody. Coffee Ann time around the world and across the nation. Joe Callahan is going to be off this morning. He was called away. Everything's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't start GoFundMes or anything because it's not that kind of a deal. However, Joe will not be with us this morning. Dave Richards pressed into emergency service. It's always nice to be here with someone that you know and trust and admire. Romeo Berthium is here.
Good morning, Dave.
Hi there. I'm glad you could be here.
I am too.
Because I understand you'll be traveling.
I will.
Very shortly.
Be going away this week for about a week. I'll be back a week from Saturday.
Uh-huh. All right.
So,
because
I assume you'll be covering
it's a happy occasion.
It is. It's a wedding. And
no, there's no way I can cover that.
we also have to check out all the repairs that have been done on our condo since Hurricane Ian hit.
Oh, I see. Repairing after storm damage is like an ongoing thing. It never stops, right?
Absolutely.
Because they don't get to everybody right away, and some people are waiting months and months and months and months to get their property repaired.
When we left in May to come home, a better term would have been it never starts. But things
I see your point.
Things started rolling after we left. They put the roofs on.
They were just waiting for you to leave, so the place would be occupied, right?
Well, no, it's not that simple, but I like the answer, though. No, they put new roofs on all the buildings, and before they could proceed with the internal repairs, they had to make sure that the roofs were done, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah, because everything just gets ruined if the roofs aren't in proper repair.
And then they started repairing the internal.
Was it an asphalt roof, or was it a ceramic shingle roof?
No, it was asphalt.
Asphalt.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah, it is.
Ceramic shingles, I understand they're having a hard time getting them.
They are. So it took a while, but they finally got it all done, and now it's a matter of cleaning up and, fine-tuning everything. But we're very fortunate that it was only physical damage. There were no injuries, no deaths, nobody got hurt. So we're blessed just to be able to have a place.
You must also, Romeo, have some thoughts on the dearth of storms this year.
Oh, I like that word. Yeah.
I pick up the big words for you.
Well, that's good. Well, so far we haven't had too many since then, but because of climate change.
You knock on wood first.
Okay. Because of climate change, it wouldn't surprise me if we had more of these events. But I look at what's happening around the world, especially even in the U.S., in California with the floods. You know, they never get hurricanes there. The fires in Oregon, Washington State, Canada, obviously the floods in Maui. Not the floods, the fires.
Mm-hmm.
It's unspeakable, really, what those people are going through. So it could have been worse, and my heart goes out to those people because when Mother Nature unleashes her fury, there's not much that man can do to prevent it. And I didn't mean to be sexist when I said man. I meant mankind. You know.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Men and women, but you know,
It's
people out
family
there.
of man.
People are
Genus
very-
and species.
You got
family of man.
People are very sensitive these days, so we have to be.
They
careful.
should get over it.
Yeah,
In my opinion.
I agree. So, anyway, that's
They should have biology class with Mr. Hauser like I had in Norwell High School.
yeah.
He walked in and said, and this is back in the year 71, 70, you know,
Yeah.
there was a lot of consciousness about sexual.
Oh yeah.
So he would walk in because he always had corridor duty, you know, making sure there's no
I know.
shenanigans going on
Of
while
course.
classes changed.
Understood.
So he'd be the last one in.
Yeah.
And close the door behind him and rush across over to his desk saying, "Good morning, men." And in the early part of the school year, the girls would say, "Man,
What about us?
it's okay,
Yeah,
here you go.
Yeah.
Genus and species."
Okay, that's a good answer. Hi, how you
And
doing?
this is a
And-
biology class.
and
I
you
want
know-
you to understand, for better or worse, and if you want to change it, go to Congress and get it changed.
Well-
he says, you're all kids. You get to be voting age. Go down to Congress, get it changed. In the meantime, the rules are this.
Well, interesting. You know, you
It's
say
the
that.
family of man.
Family of man. But when I go out for dinner, I would say at least 50% of the time, if not more, the server will say, "How you guys doing today?" My wife is sitting right next to me, and she's not a guy, but I know it's an expression. But nevertheless,
It's interchangeable with the word folks.
yeah, I know
which
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you might think
yeah.
that, I mean, if you use it that way,
Yeah.
then to you,
Yeah.
guy is
I know
a
it.
term that has a sexual
Not
demeanor on it,
necessarily,
but
but
No.
it's similar to that man thing.
it's folks. There's no
Yeah.
sexual delineation with folks.
Right.
People. There's no sexual delineation with people.
Exactly.
So people are using guys because it's simpler and easier to say.
And if they said, "How are you girls doing?" which would be, I think, appropriate in this
well,
particular
that would
example,
also exclude
because
some of the guys.
a guy is a guy and a girl is a girl. So let's say it was my wife and I, and the server said, "How are you girls doing today?" I would probably
Let's
be taken
find out.
aback. Maybe we can
Let's
ask.
find out how the lady on our panel
yeah,
this morning
yeah.
feels about all this.
Yeah.
Hello
You know,
there,
I think
Melissa
you
Murray.
said-
Good morning.
Good morning. I have been using this, and other people have been using this a lot more now. And I use it because I lived in Atlanta for 10 years. When I say
Y'all,
y'all,
That's a good
it's
expression.
actually
y'all is a
right,
word.
because
It's in the dictionary down there.
Well,
How do you spell it?
people have been using it because it's collective, non-binary, right? So to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's you all.
but they've been doing that for years down there in the South.
Well, right, but now
Before all
now
this.
it's
Yeah.
kind of become a non-gender specific
Yeah.
collective way to say
Yeah.
I'll use.
All used, yeah.
Or
Right? It's like
or is
so.
Yes, in New England, it's all used.
how you's doing?
Yeah, right.
How you's? Who's you's? You.
But I've been saying it for a really long time. I feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe y'all's not a word.
Yeah.
It is
It is now.
down there.
Well, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Y'all.
All and then or it's all y'all
They
sometimes.
just don't. They don't use it in legal papers.
right.
It's
right.
even on a crossword puzzle.
But you can't go wrong because then you don't offend anybody unless they don't like the word
Well,
y'all.
Unless they don't want to be part of all.
right.
Believe me, you can offend anybody.
That is true. That's true.
Because there are people out there. And I learned that when I got into this business. Shoot for the best you can do.
Yeah, you'll never make everybody
Don't have any intention of hurting anyone's feelings.
Right.
Try to think of everyone's feelings, but you'll never be able to address everyone's feelings individually.
Yeah, that goes for
because-
politics as well, or pretty much anything.
Well, I suppose so. Yeah, I was thinking.
Good
I
point.
wasn't thinking politics. I was thinking of performing or,
Yeah.
broadcasting, addressing the general public.
Yep.
Somebody's going to feel different, or whatever. They're they're going to have a bad day and they're going to want to pick a fight with somebody and say, well, I don't go along with that.
No,
So-
I just call them listeners. Thank you, listeners. Thank you for
That'll do
listening.
it too.
Oh yeah. Right.
that's-
Perfect.
What about
Kinda.
those deaf people out there,
What?
now, Romeo?
Oh, yeah.
They're not likely to be offended by what you say on the radio.
I just try to speak louder when I hear there are people that.
Wait a minute.
It still doesn't work.
I wouldn't have gone there.
Okay.
Me either.
Okay.
All right. Well, Joe was called away. It's nothing serious. He was called away, and has to attend to a family matter without delay. And so he said, Dave, be sure to ask Romeo.
I know what he's got to
Because
say.
we were talking about it. This
I know
morning.
exactly what he's.
You were listening this morning?
No, I was not. I confess, but I think it's got something to do with the Patriots.
No.
Okay, never
It has
mind.
to do with the start of school
Okay.
and your past life.
My past
of
life,
being
yeah.
a member of the education profession.
Yes, for 35 years.
Yes.
Unfilled years, yeah.
So anyway, the deal was he was on the air this morning saying that school goes back in about 3 weeks. And I said,
No.
what?
No.
Hasn't been that way in Woonsocket in years.
Right.
The state's got into this little attitude of it's not 180 days that you come to the building. It's 180 days of classroom instruction.
Correct.
So they developed a new term called instructional days.
Yes.
The state did this. Got to be 180 instructional days.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they don't allow, in Rhode Island, they do in Massachusetts still, they do not allow 2-hour delays to school because they say it will not count as an instructional day. You won't be in the classroom long enough.
Yep.
Well, so anyway, I mentioned to him, I says, no, Woonsocket's been going back before Labor Day, much to everyone here's chagrin,
Absolutely.
for a long time.
How long?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but it's a long time. I'm thinking it's got to be 10, 15
More
years.
than that.
Oh yeah.
More than that.
Yeah, I retired, believe it or not, in 2004. That's almost 20 years
Did they
ago
change it
from
before
teaching.
you? Before you
They
left?
did at least 10 or 15 years before I retired.
Oh,
it's
so
been
it's a lot
30.
more.
It's been
Yeah.
about 30, 35 years. And it's been that way for a while. I have a lot of friends that are still in the profession or that are in the profession, and a lot of them are going back this week for orientation.
Today.
Yeah, and they start next week.
The school vacation was over yesterday. For
Absolutely.
the Woonsocket School Department.
I
They have
never.
orientation. They have freshmen are coming in for orientation on Wednesday this week.
Yeah, probably.
At the
In
high school.
Woonsocket, right? I never liked the opening of school before Labor Day. It's just a psychological
It's
thing.
just
It
a
is.
cheat.
Yeah.
not
just a
because
cheat.
not because I was teaching and I didn't want to go back. It was just a matter of, it's still summer. I mean, it's
Still summer, yeah.
August. Oh, I'm glad you agree.
And it is still summer, and especially
yeah.
in the high school, if you have those, if you're fortunate enough to have one of those interior rooms with no windows,
Oh.
it's stiflingly.
Did you go to
hot.
Woonsocket High School?
I did.
So you know.
Oh, I know.
There's always a couple of kids who have not graduated to antiperspirant yet, right?
For several years when I first started it was the beginning of my career. I started at the old high school, which is on, Park Place, thank you. And then in 1972, we moved to the new high school. And we still call it the new high school.
They do,
50
yeah.
years later, 51 years later, the new high school. But I remember everything was assigned according to seniority, and I got an inside room.
Yeah.
And the AC never worked. And
Nope.
then you got to say AC. Well, if you don't have AC in those inside rooms with 30 bodies sitting in front of you,
Oh,
the
it's-
temperature rises to
yeah.
90, 95 degrees, and you can't.
And
you
it's
know,
never been upgraded since.
Yeah, no.
That's the thing.
Well, they try. So I finally was able to, graduate to an outside room after about 10 years. It takes a long time, and it
Oh,
used
so
to take a long time to get
There's a
promoted.
pecking order in the high school, too?
Oh, absolutely. It's all seniority. And I finally got the outside room. They didn't have air conditioning in those rooms, but they had air cooling, but they had windows.
Yeah, windows.
And you could not beat the old style windows at the old high school where you could lift them all up this way and open
Sure.
the car doors.
The
Yep.
window sash,
And you
yeah.
got a nice breeze, but and then people would say, "Hey, air conditioning? Come on, 50 years ago, air conditioning? Are you crazy? That's a luxury." I said, "Yeah, well, come and sit in my classroom for a while," but get very little sympathy from the general public. And the reason they did that is because of cost-cutting measures. I mean, it was only $6.5 million to build that thing. Now, if they built a school like that today, it would cost them at
my
least
goodness.
60
Yeah.
easy.
at least 10 times.
At least.
And that was a 3-year high school. They didn't even have the 9th grade until later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I didn't go to 9th grade there. I was at
you
the
went
middle,
to the middle
in
school,
middle school.
which was probably, was it the middle school
Junior
or the
high.
junior
It was
high?
a
Yeah,
junior
that's what
high
I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother taught there for many years too, and he
Now
was
we
the
have
man.
2 middle schools and no 9th grade.
Yeah. I like that.
That's progress for you.
And he always refers to his career as being a teacher at the junior high.
Yeah.
He still calls it the junior high.
I still call it junior high. I don't even know why I called it the middle school, actually. It was the old junior high.
It's a new concept. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I'm not sure if I like it, but again, who am I? I'm old, so it's hard for me to accept change.
Yep, when I was in the high school, it was 3. It was 8. It was 9, 11, 10, 11, and 12. Sorry. 10,
Yes, it was.
11, and 12.
And if you were-
9th grade was still at the
And
junior
if you were a
high.
10th
yeah.
grader, you were a freshman. Remember
That's
that?
right, which
went
is
from-
bizarre.
You went from
right.
freshman to junior to senior. There were no
Yeah.
sophomores.
right.
And then when the
Okay.
9th graders came in, then of course they were the freshmen, and it was tough to address this new group of 10th graders as sophomores. But
Right.
So anyway, that's the way it is.
All right.
What?
Well, I haven't got to the question yet. That
Okay.
was the setup.
What is the question? Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry.
So that was the setup. That's what started the
Oh,
whole
I got
thing.
you. All right.
So then Joe said, well, look that up. So I went right to the calendar. It's online. And I looked it up and says, Joe, they're back to work today
Yeah.
in the education
Yeah.
department. Freshmen have orientation on Wednesday.
Wow.
But if you want to know the first day of school in Woonsocket this year,
Yeah.
after they've taken care of all the other orientations and checks this and do that and stuff like that, it's Friday, September the 1st.
Really?
For all grades,
First day of school
K
on
through
Friday.
12,
Wow.
back to school on Friday, September the 1st.
Okay.
Now keep this in mind, and this is the crux of the question that Joe was asking. He said, why would you have everybody come back in on Friday the 1st and then have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, which is Labor Day, off?
yeah.
That sounds stupid.
Yeah.
I says, well, that's because that's the way it works out, and they must go back before Labor Day, or they won't be happy. I ridicule it because I've never been on board
Right.
with the fact that you had to start class before Labor Day. But that's my personal opinion, and I'm not mean in my ridicule. I'm just constantly reminding them that they're not really pleasing me in this situation. But why would they care? But it get worse than that. Now do you want to offer an opinion on just that much, because it got worse?
Okay. Oh.
No,
okay.
no opinion.
Oh,
All right,
how do I
I'll
feel
tell you
about
the
that?
rest of it?
I'll tell you how I feel after you're done.
Oh, yeah. Well, he says less than 50% of the enrolled students will be in class on Friday the 1st. And I says, well, don't say that on the radio, Joe. Give people ideas. He says, I don't have to give them ideas.
That's right. It's the last weekend of summer. Families are going to go away. So there's a segment of the population that doesn't come back till second week of September. Things don't really settle until about September 15th. It used to be that way when I was teaching. So I'm just saying, yeah, I think it's stupid. Whoever decide, I can say it.
They're not
And,
stupid people, by the way.
No,
They're
no.
victims
The
of
idea
circumstance.
is stupid.
I don't want anybody thinking my school department's stupid, because I'm proud of them.
Well, of course you are, and you proved that in many ways by covering the graduations and the band concerts and everything. I know
In
that.
the school committee meetings.
And you put your money
live.
where your mouth is, and that's what I admire about you, Dave. But here's the thing: I really long. Well, I'm not teaching anymore, but I would long for the good old days when the day after Labor Day was the day the teachers went in for their orientation. And the day
And
after
Wednesday
that,
we all went to school.
and if it was maybe, and I can understand maybe having just one class, especially the freshmen, go in on just one day, give them a chance to feel their way around without
Right,
being
figure out where everything
harassed
is
by
and-
their
yeah.
upperclassmen, and then
Especially
Thurs-
the Woonsocket High School campus,
Yeah,
always got to be
yeah.
a challenge.
And Thursday and Friday, everybody's in, and you're on. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know why they tampered with that. It was a
Well,
great
no,
schedule.
Let me just finish up here. I got
All
to
right.
tag up with reality for you now.
Okay.
Okay, so as it works out,
Yes.
they've taken care of all the preliminary non-instructional stuff.
Yep.
by the 1st of September, and they're going in on the 1st of September,
Yep.
the day before the Labor Day weekend. But this year, it's worse because in Rhode Island, at least in Woonsocket, we shut down the schools for Election Day, and there is the special primary election for 1st Congressional District on Tuesday the 5th, the day after Labor Day. So the schools won't be open then. So they come in on Friday the 1st, and they're off on the
Until
2nd,
Wednesday.
3rd, 4th, and 5th. 4 days
I know,
off.
yeah.
After 1 day in. The question Joe asked is, what do you think?
I think it's stupid. I'll say it again.
Well, okay, but how many people? What's the bet now?
The idea is
Joe's
stupid.
in a betting mood. He's not here, but he wanted to know
How many people will show up?
What percentage of the student body is going to show up under those circumstances?
Probably
I know
about.
I would. I'd go because I'm a doobie. All right, so
I don't know. I think maybe 60%. And the reason I say that is
60% will be there.
A lot of the
Do you
students.
disagree with Joe to that
You know,
extent?
a little bit, because I think a lot of students will want to see their friends they haven't seen all summer, and it's going to be one
Yeah,
of
and
those.
it's,
They wanna
the,
see how they
it's the
dress.
first day of
doing?
school.
And,
They
you
wanna see
know,
how they dress,
yeah,
right? Right,
especially-
Melissa?
And you
It's the-
talk.
yeah,
First day of
yeah,
school,
and it's-
wanna see
it's
how they dress.
The first day of school is like people make a big deal out of it.
Yes, yeah.
So if it were on the other end,
Yes.
and you had 3 days in, and
Yeah.
then a whole
Yeah.
5 days off, and then a 1 day back, if you put it on the other end, I would say it's going to be like 25%, right?
Yes.
So it kind of, if you have to stick that 1 day, do you stick it on the end where you know absolutely no one is going to show up?
Yeah.
Or you just do it in the beginning?
Yeah, that's a good
It's
point.
kind of like dipping your toe in. You know, you're not going to really get any work done, but you're not going to get any work done that last day either.
People are
So-
curious, and of course, for the high school, it's very different. I think that's when you're going to get your high absentee rate.
Yeah.
In the elementary level, it'll probably be 90%.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
parents,
Yeah.
maybe even higher.
Well, because school is more of a social function in their lives.
Yeah,
At that point.
yeah.
But in the high
Parents
school,
have
you
to
have
work
other
and-
interests
yeah.
outside of school. So it's
Yeah.
not so much of a social function. It's more of an
Exactly.
obligation.
Yeah.
So that's where the attitude changes, I think. Now, just because I got to finish this and get to our break, just to finish it off and be complete about this, North Smithfield, we looked it up,
Yeah.
goes back on the 30th.
Okay.
That's a week from Wednesday.
Yeah.
All classes. Cumberland somehow continues to fight the trend, and they're going back to school after Labor Day.
Yes. All right.
How they're getting it done? Geez, I don't know.
They're just doing it.
But
They
they're
have the
getting
power.
it done.
And that's a good example of school committees having power over, let's say, the state. They can control what they, I mean, they have to follow certain guidelines, like 180 days, but there are certain things they can do that nobody else can tell them to do, you know, because, and that's why it's so hard for, when people propose combining districts, you know, local school committees lose their autonomy, and they refuse to do that because it's a power thing. But it's also, you know, it's good. I'm glad. Hooray for Cumberland.
Hooray for Cumberland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Whatever.
fine town.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
It ain't Woonsocket, but it's a fine town. We'll be back with more coffee and discussion after these words.
Cumberland.
You know, when you're paying the right price for protection, you just know it. It's that warm, fuzzy, totally secure feeling, knowing that you're not only getting great coverage, but you're also not paying too much for it. And when it comes to your insurance, there's no one better at getting the right price for your protection than Allstate agents Kara and Celeste Benjamin, because they know when it comes to your bank account, every penny counts towards something bigger, something better. Like a nicer car, that home update you've been dreaming of, or a phone that's fresh out of the box. Those little or big things that we work so hard for. And Kara and Celeste Benjamin want to help you work a little less by getting you the coverage you need and the savings you deserve when you switch to Allstate. Contact Kara and Celeste Benjamin at the Benjamin Agency. One agency, 2 locations in North Smithfield and Bellingham. 765-5000 for a free quote today. Allstate, you're in good hands. And you're in good hands with Kara and Celeste Benjamin at the Benjamin Agency. Savings vary based on the average annual savings reported by new auto customers surveyed in 2019 who switched to Allstate.
The Coffee and Panel is enjoying coffee from Down East Coffee in Pawtucket. They're a 62-year-old family business that roasts all its coffee right here in Rhode Island. Founded originally as Excellent Coffee Company, they provide great coffee to food service establishments throughout New England.
ON Radio.
We're back here on Coffee and on ON AM and FM radio, and streaming live, of course, at woonsocketradio.com and all fashionable social media platforms.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, what else you got to say? There's like 5 of them.
Okay, yeah.
So
Whatever they're calling it now, Twitter, X, whatever.
That's X.
X. I can't, people still call it Twitter.
it
It's
marks.
just going to be Twitter. It's just like nobody calls
Junior
Facebook
high.
Meta.
Junior
Right.
high versus middle school.
Yeah, the junior high.
Well, they could, they've got their reasons for name changes. I have experience with name changes, and they can be really big mistakes.
You're talking about ON?
Yeah, about ON, right?
Yeah.
And as it has turned out, what is it now? It's almost 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
Since it'll be next February, it'll be 30 years.
Really?
And we gave up the WWON call letters and went to WOON because it more said the name of the city than WWON was a second choice anyway back in 1946. So all right, so we did that, and I always thought it was the biggest mistake I ever made in my business life.
Really?
But now, almost 30 years later, I'm looking at it and saying, no, it wasn't. I've been able to top that mistake.
Well, there are still people out there, that I know personally. They're a little bit on the elderly side, I'll admit, who still refer to the station as WWON.
No, they don't.
Oh, yeah.
It's WWON.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which was another reason why we wanted to change it.
WWON.
Yeah, that would be.
Well, the
that's
French
good.
speakers are dying
Not
off.
bad.
Yeah.
But I remember
But WW.
it being called that when I was
WW.
Of course.
ON.
That's a hard.
Yeah.
Well, this is how we got our nickname ON.
Yeah.
They couldn't say W. I said this once before. I'm going to say it, just one more time. Hopefully the last time before I die. Is that when I was 16 years old coming to work here at WWON, that I was in one of my strongest memories is I'm driving in my mother's 1965 green Rambler station wagon
Rambler.
to get here
Yeah.
for the evening shift. Monday through Friday, I worked the evening shift and I worked the weekend shift as well.
Yep.
And as I'm coming in, I couldn't say WWON. I would be driving in going WWWWW,
You were
trying
practicing.
to train my
Yeah, really.
mouth
Yeah.
muscles so I'd have muscle memory to be able to say
It's hard to say. It really is.
WWON.
Yeah. Yep.
Because when I listened to the station, I noted that Gene Russo, the very first commercial voice for programming on our station, had a hard time saying it himself. So I says, it's not just me, you have to work at it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, and he could say WWON, but he couldn't say WWON.
But very few
It was always
states.
WWON.
Yes, right, right.
Sounds like George. And you're thinking of him too when you said W. But seriously, we're creatures of habit, and that's exactly what it is.
There's a medical thing called muscle memory.
I didn't
You
know
train
that.
your
I
muscles
didn't
to
know
do
that.
things.
You
Right,
train.
right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so much for W's, I guess. I'm
That's
trying
right,
to say.
so much for
Oh,
W.
here's what I
It's a
wanted
hard
to say.
letter to say.
It is. Most stations today don't even use the W's. It's like B101.
Yeah,
B,
they-
Right,
everything's-
exactly.
Everything's a
or
slogan.
they say channels, which is maybe why.
Yeah, well.
W is still a hard word to pronounce. A hard letter. Sorry, not a word. It could be a word. If you
Well,
wrote
it's
it out
interesting.
double U.
There's well, I know, but there's
Two words.
there's 50
Yeah.
my radios. Got to be 150 jack radios.
Yeah.
And B's, they're all over the place.
I know.
Got to be 1,000 B's. But as far as I know, I've never heard of another ON.
Okay. Well, that's good.
And we come by the nickname honestly, and we use it daily.
ON radio.
Well, that's how I refer to it. I'm
Yeah.
going to ON.
Yep.
I never say anything differently
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah,
Okay,
well-
moving along. Romeo.
Yes, sir. Another question.
Imagine driving down Interstate 295.
Yes.
And it's a stormy morning. And there you are, speed limit 65 miles an hour, and you're starting to slow down a little bit because the rain is getting
Yeah,
heavier.
sure.
And all of a sudden, your car is 10 feet in the air and spinning around.
And what do? You say, what?
You grab the steering wheel very tightly and hold on and start saying a few prayers. Is what I would do.
Yeah. And there was
in
a woman,
situation
right?
like
She
that.
was hurt a little bit, I heard,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
nothing serious.
Yeah, so she wasn't
Scary.
hurt. No physical
I
damage
thought-
to her.
I
The
thought she
car
was.
around her did its thing to
Okay.
protect her during that. But I mean, you're driving highway speed down the road, and all of a sudden the wind picks up your car,
That's-
lifts it 10 feet off the ground, spins it around, and throws it into a signpost and guardrail where it bounces off and ends up in a travel lane.
Scariest thing that I would have ever experienced. I'm sure the poor woman felt the same way. I mean, it happens quick. Mm-hmm. So she didn't have much time to think about it, but still, wow.
Yeah.
The power of Mother Nature is just unbelievable. Lifting up a car and ripping out old oak trees right out of the ground and
Yeah.
dropping them, I just can't imagine. Yeah. So luckily nothing. She was fine.
Sure.
Yep. She
Well, oak
is fine.
trees are easier to rip out of the ground than
I bet-
pine trees, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. They don't have a root system.
Oak trees, their roots spread
Correct.
laterally. Pine
Yeah.
trees, their roots spread down.
And you're absolutely right.
And their leaves are thinner, so they're
Yeah.
not so much of a
Yeah.
windsail.
Wow. Still, just
A lot
being
to think
you know,
about. The closest thing that I came to with something like that is driving down Route 44 toward Putnam one time. It was a stormy morning. There were winds all over the place. And the wind got in back of the car and picked it up and lifted the back wheels off the ground. Now, the front wheels were still on there, so this isn't
God.
like the lady just experienced
Yeah.
with a tornado. It was not a tornado, but there were straight line winds.
Yep.
And picked up, and it hit the back of the car, lifted it up, and the speedometer went up. I saw it go up past 80 and 90
Because the wheels were spinning.
because the wheels were off the ground spinning.
Oh my God.
And then it dropped me back down there and it skidded the tires, because they were
Yep,
spinning too
because of
fast
spinning,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. Had a hard time getting it
right.
back under control
But you
again.
did.
Because it happened out near Bodish Reservoir, where there's a turn, a
Yep.
big gradual turn around a little inlet there
Okay.
on the Bodish Reservoir. And so I had to try to get it back in because I went over the center line and everything. Phew. It was nobody was coming the other way. But scary things. Winds can do scary things.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, I've never experienced anything like that. I mean, hydroplaning or on ice, and you
Oh,
can
yeah.
do your best to not try to overcorrect yourself.
Right. Because that's
But-
where you really get in trouble.
Right. Don't try to overcorrect, or just keep it steady. Foot off the gas, but when you're all in the air, there's no control, zero. Doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Melissa,
and
you've been
kinda
to Block
crazy.
Island, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Romy, have you ever gone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not recently, but I heard there was a fire
Well,
there.
yeah, there was, and there was.
Bad.
They've got the word out, and they're saying, "Oh, please come back to Block Island. It's okay. You don't have to worry about ballards. You don't have to worry about fights. You don't have to worry about the ferry. You don't have to worry about the fire on Friday night and all the rest of that sort of thing."
Sure.
Quite frankly, there's a quote in an Associated Press article published in today's Woonsocket Call that quotes someone on it says separate post Sunday. The Chamber of Commerce on Block Island, New Shoreham Chamber of Commerce, urged donations to Block Island Fire Department, saying, quote, their courageous efforts and fast action helped save the town. Because believe me, fire like happened at the Harborside Hotel could easily spread to all the other buildings
Oh, yeah.
downtown. It says, thank you to all the firefighters and first responders for keeping us safe.
Yeah.
And the roof caved in on the harbor side around 1:30 in the morning. As you can imagine, there's just so many firefighters on Block Island, but about 50 jumped onto airships, planes, helicopters, whatever, with turnout gear to and mutual aid
Right.
to land on Block Island and fight the fire. So there's a lot of help that came to their aid. We feel badly for it, but they
Yep.
seem to be concerned that people won't be coming. It's so close to the end of the year now.
Yeah, right.
Because
It
usually
is.
after Labor Day, things get so quiet on Block Island.
Yeah, and this particular building is close to the harbor, right? Harborside.
Well, sure,
Yep.
Harborside.
Harborside. What was
Which, by the way,
Yeah,
this program broadcast from that building
yeah.
in 1955.
Wow.
It wasn't called the Harborside then. It was owned by different people, local folks.
What was the occasion?
Well, I don't remember what the occasion was more than it was June, and it was time to celebrate Block Island and going there for the summer, and trips
Nice.
across the bay to visit Block Island, and Coffee Ann did its part to it was
Promote
only a
it.
15-minute program
yeah.
to do its thing, but they got everybody over there to do, and they recorded the show days earlier, and
Yeah.
then came back with the disc and played the disc on the air. That's
Interesting.
how technology was in 1955. I tried to do it in 1995, and I was met with the most humorous set of circumstances. And I tried and I tried. I couldn't get this done, no matter what I tried. I tried to get the Coffee Ann panel put over there,
Yep.
and then get them back. And I succeeded in almost everything but getting people back.
They're still there.
No, we never went because I couldn't be assured of getting them back home.
Okay.
You see, and the problem is that for years and years, a lot of people who came to Coffee Ann were sponsors, and they had to get to their day job
Yeah.
after being with us
Of
in the
course.
morning
Yep,
here.
yep.
And I could not pledge to get them back before noon or 1 o'clock. And that was a deal breaker for some of them. They weren't going to go. I said, well, this is no fun to have a party and people don't come.
Was this going to be a live broadcast?
It was going to be a live broadcast.
yeah.
We worked it all out
Yeah.
from the same place, the same room
Wow.
that Coffee Ann had broadcast from before.
55.
That was recorded, but that was because of the technology of the day. In 1995, we had the technology to
do it
do
live.
it live.
Yeah.
And we were ready to do it live. But, and that was the problem because it was one of those things. We had a schedule that was strict enough that we could depend on being on the wharf at a certain time. We'd all get on the ferry, get over there in time to set up and do the program. But to come back, what they told us was the ferry comes back when it's full.
Okay.
So
So you
there
could-
was no definite return time back in the morning
Yeah.
after 9 o'clock. It
And-
could have been 11 o'clock that they got you back over.
And again, what was the occasion back in 1995? Dave?
Well, that would have been the
40th anniversary.
40th anniversary of the other broadcast.
I see. I got it.
And for similar reasons.
Yeah.
You know,
05,
come see our
15,
brothers and
right.
sisters here on New Shoreham.
Of
Wonderful
course.
place. Come on by. And like that.
Wow.
And we're just doing our neighborly best, from the top of Rhode Island to the bottom, southernmost part of Rhode Island.
Yep.
So,
That's
a little
inter-
Rhode Island pride.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting.
So-
Now there's tons back and forth. There's a fast ferry. There's
Oh yeah,
you
but
can-
we didn't have that then.
Right,
We had the
right.
old one that was shaped like a U, where the bow was high and the stern was high and the belly was deep in the water, and to get the cars in, you went in through the side.
And you were lucky if
On
you
a
didn't
ramp.
get sick on the way over there because it's a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well,
Sometimes it
sometimes
can
it
be.
is,
Some people
sometimes
get
it
sick.
isn't. But
Yeah.
that has to do with
The weather.
To do with
Lot-
the
the
weather.
weather,
I mean,
but-
you can't do anything
No,
about
but
that.
the old boats. I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
And well, by the way, that's one other thing they told us, but it wasn't the deciding factor.
No.
They said, oh, by the way, if it's bad weather, you might not get there in time. I said, well, don't worry about that, because if we're down there at 6:30 in the morning to get on the ferry to go over, it seems to me that we'd have plenty enough time to come back if the ferry wasn't going to run. So,
Oh, right. To come back to here. Yeah. Yeah.
but it was like I was introduced to the concept of island time.
Yeah. Even on a tiny little island in New England.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Island time. Mm-hmm. It's oh yeah, we'll get that done today.
And Block
When?
Island
Oh,
is-
sometime this morning.
It's become quite a resort area now. A lot of people
Well,
go
it
there.
has. A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of people from
Expensive.
New York go over now.
Yeah.
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 And because the Hamptons got full,
Nice.
so in order to get out of the Hamptons, they go to Block Island, Rhode Island.
They jump right over Block Island and go to Nantucket or
That's
they
yeah.
could.
Right.
Yeah.
But
right.
Nantucket has gotten to be quite exclusive there too.
it's
Yes,
sure,
it
sure
has.
has.
It has.
Yeah. In fact, they said, I don't know if this is true. They said the majority of residences on Nantucket Island are like Airbnbs out for hire.
Yeah.
And the people that live there will just rent them out because they can't afford not to because the taxes are so high. The only way they can afford to pay the taxes is to rent out their home.
Yeah.
And I said, what a shame that is.
Yeah.
And because there's not a large all year round population. We used to go. Our family had knew another family that had multiple homes there, so we would stay in like the tiny little home for a week. We always did that up until I don't know, maybe like a few years after I got out of high school, but we were lucky to go and be there. And there's so few true islanders that I think like one year the graduating class was like 5 or 6 people, right? They were like their high school graduating class. Maybe it was 8, right? But like it was
That's
really,
because
really.
a couple were held back.
Yeah, it was really, really
Let's
small.
not have graduation this year. We don't have a quorum.
Yeah.
I wonder,
You guys will graduate next year with the next class.
I wonder if they started before Labor Day.
I don't know what they do. I don't know I mean.
Well, having so much fun talking over here, I haven't been watching the clock. I'm a little out of practice. Let's have our weather forecast. And the weather forecast is sponsored by the folks at unbound.org. You want to change the life of another person? Then you do that and you change your own life. So like I said, if you want to change your own life, change the life of another person. Seems to me to be a good idea. Unbound.org is the website to go to find out all about it.
Mostly cloudy skies today with a high of 86 and a breeze from the southwest. Tonight, mostly cloudy, overnight low of 59 and a breeze from the north. Tuesday, sunshine and a high of 76, another breeze from the north. Wednesday, sunshine and 76. Thursday, sunshine and 77. Thursday night, rain starts. Friday, rain is likely, mostly cloudy, 75. Saturday, mostly cloudy and 74. And on Sunday, partly sunny with a high of 70.
Okay. Note from Denise says Nancy Phillips was listening in this morning, called in and said, first day in Woonsocket is August 30th, 1 to 9. Did not see that on the calendar. Kindergarten A through L, first day. August 31st, which is Thursday. 10, 11, and 12, first day. 1st to 9th grades, second day. Kindergarten only M through Z, last names. All back to school on the 1st of September. Okay. That's not how I read the calendar, but what can I tell you? Maybe she has a better calendar than I do. I just Googled it up. So,
She's in the know. She's in the know.
well, I guess she is. And she wouldn't fib about this stuff.
It was a test. See, Dave, you knew it all along. You just wanted to see if there were listeners out there listening to this.
It's very kind of you to help me save face, but no, that's what I saw, so that's what I said. But it was more the idea of, yeah, I know, I didn't have their mics on, I'm sorry. Because we're still in the break, guys. I just wanted to get that note read without delay, because I know Nancy's so busy, she could very easily miss it.
Yeah, yeah, she should.
Rhode Islanders need a strong and effective leader in Congress, and more importantly, someone they can trust. I'm Stephen Casey. As a 17-year first responder with the Woonsocket Fire Department, I will never forget where I came from or who I work for. In my 10 years in leadership at the State House, I've brought people together from competing interests to find compromise and common ground, which is what this country needs. I'm Stephen Casey. I'm asking for your vote now through September 5th. You've counted on me. Now I hope I can count on you.
Paid for, Casey for Congress.
I'm Stephen Casey, and I approve this message.
When you're out enjoying Rhode Island's great outdoors, remember these 3 steps to prevent Lyme disease. Repel, check, and remove. To repel ticks, use bug spray with at least 20% DEET. When you get inside, do a full-body tick check. Be sure to check your kids and pets, too. If you find a tick, remove it with tweezers. Remember, repel, check, and remove. For more tick-free Rhode Island tips, visit health.ri.gov/ticks. Brought to you by the Rhode Island Department of Health and the Rhode Island Broadcasters Association.
At Dean Bank, their focus is on helping their customers achieve financial success. Dean Bank is a full-service bank, so they're able to deliver solutions that solve financial problems of all shapes and sizes. And as your neighbor, it's their mission to make a positive impact within the communities where they live and work. Dean Bank offers scholarships to students from participating schools, sponsor local charitable organizations, and more. Visit one of their local Blackstone Valley branches in Bellingham and Blackstone today, or find us online at deanbank.com. Dean Bank, it's my bank.
Rhode Islanders need a strong and effective leader in Congress, and more importantly, someone they can trust. I'm Stephen Casey. As a 17-year first responder with the Woonsocket Fire Department, I will never forget where I came from or who I work for. In my 10 years in leadership at the State House, I've brought people together from competing interests to find compromise and common ground, which is what this country needs. I'm Stephen Casey. I'm asking for your vote now through September 5th. You've counted on me. Now I hope I can count on you.
Paid for, Casey for Congress.
I'm Stephen Casey, and I approve this message.
Hello, I am Paul LaValle, and on September 9th at 2 p.m., the pro-life members of St. Joseph's in Woonsocket will be hosting a remembrance ceremony for the unborn. Location is Resurrection Cemetery in Cumberland on West Rentham Road. It will be held at the monument of the unknown baby Mary. We invite you and hope you can join us.
Thank you, Paul. Paul dropped in this morning and made that little message for us. Sounds like a worthy thing to consider going on September 9th. All right, we're back here on Coffee Ann, and Melissa Murray is here, and Romeo
Good
Berthew
morning.
is there, and hi there. And I don't know what you want to talk about next. Did you either of you come with topics that you were yearning to get out? Because
Well,
it's only 15 minutes left of the show.
Very quickly, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if I expected Joe to be here, and I was certainly going to talk about the Patriots. They won the other night, and they did.
I thought they suspended the game.
In that second, well, they still won the game though.
Oh, I
because
see.
of the injury. And the football player who got hurt is okay. He had a concussion, and he went home with the team. Anyway, that was all preseason stuff. The real season starts. The season starts in the second week of September, I think. The first game is September. Let's see. The first.
Don't look to me
third,
for assistance.
September,
I haven't paid any attention.
I think it's either
I don't sports.
ninth or the
I've been
10th.
up to my neck in Levitt.
Okay, and I haven't, and the other thing I was going to talk about was the Red Sox. They swept the Yankees this weekend.
Yes, which is only bad for the Yankees. It's not necessarily good for the Red Sox
I
because
know.
they're still not going to make it.
I know. They were both competing for last place. So
And the Yankees won. They got last place.
They won. Yeah, you won. You win by losing.
Joe says that Joe pays attention to these things.
He does.
Joe says that they want not only the manager of the Yankees, Boone. They not only want his head, they want his feet, arms, hands, pinkies. As a matter of fact, somebody's calling for his nose in the Bronx.
Oh my God! Yeah,
so
that would make sense.
They want this guy on a pike.
Yeah. Not a good year for.
How do you lose to the Red Sox 3 in a row?
I know. And
And
Baltimore, are they in first place? A couple of
I don't know,
years ago,
well,
they were
Baltimore and Toronto have been
they were
fighting
in
all
the-
year, haven't they?
Yeah.
For first place.
Baltimore was in the cellar for years until recently. So it's amazing how things change. But that's all I wanted
Well, that's
to say
right.
about
Things
sports.
changed. The Red Sox were the seller for years, and then they got to be something doing.
Supposedly
because they copied what the guy out in crossing San Francisco is the Oakland.
Oh yeah,
Oakland team.
And I also heard that Oakland is moving to maybe Las Vegas. Is that possible?
Well, that's it. I mean,
Doesn't
under the
Las Vegas
shadow
already have a
of
team?
San Francisco, they have.
Yeah.
They have their own problems with identity there.
And I can see Melissa's all excited about this.
I have, you may as well be speaking another language.
But anyway, that's it for sports. As Lou Mandeville would say, that's sports for now. For now.
Right. Oh, gee whiz.
Yeah. Okay.
We're having Nancy Phillips just texted me and showed me pictures of the
schedule.
The Woonsocket Education Department website. Well, I don't know what website I went to.
Okay.
I asked for the Woonsocket Public School Department calendar, and I got a calendar.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was.
Probably an old calendar.
I mean, essentially, the one part we agreed with was on September 1st, everybody into the pool.
Mm-hmm.
But there is some other things on hers I can see there.
Yeah.
Like today, the new hire teachers orientation day.
Okay.
This is a blackboard. This is chalk.
They don't use those anymore.
They use the whiteboards.
Right,
and
It's a whiteboard with a
I'm
marker.
just having fun. Just
Nobody
having
has
fun
to
here.
clap out the.
This is a computer.
Thank you. Nancy has unprecedented
This is where you store-
access.
this
to
is
She
the
does.
moderator.
I told you she knows.
Yeah, she does.
That's
Well,
good.
We
Thank
love
you, Nancy. Yep.
And we have reasons to love her even more in October. I'll tell you that.
Yes. Congratulations. Yeah.
Okay.
One of
All
us
right.
shares.
See, okay, here comes a note from the audience. Thank you very much, audience. I was just going to talk about
Yep.
some other disappointing stuff. But this is, well, I guess this isn't certainly not happy news, but it's been so many years that you say to yourself, well, I think a lot of the people who are affected by this local event are not around to remember it, but some of us people who were extremely young at the time will be remembering that this past Saturday, the 19th, was the anniversary of the flood of 1955 when
Right.
I remember
Horseshoe
that.
Dam at Harris Pond breached and all of Social got flooded.
The flatlands, yeah.
That was
with-
Hurricane Carol, correct?
No.
Well,
No, it was different? No?
Carol was 1954.
right.
This was
Oh,
the year after, and you anticipated a question I was going to ask. A little trivia question. What was the name of the hurricane?
Diane.
Yes. Very good.
And
Named
so,
after my wife.
but it had been a very rainy August, and then with the rains from a hurricane.
yeah.
And the hurricane, by the way, its winds were not a big factor for us in Woonsocket at the time, but it did bring drenching rains. And the earthen Horseshoe Dam, well, it wasn't all earthen. I mean, they had bricks and stones and everything else in it as well, but it was
Crumbled.
held together with earth. It just couldn't handle it. The stories I heard from people who were on the scene was that they did their best to make sure that the dam itself was reinforced with sandbags, everything else they could do. Of course, it was raining at the time.
Yep.
There's all mud out there. And according to what I was told, it was not the dam itself that breached first. It was on the side of the dam. Now, if you're on Privilege Street looking at where the Horseshoe Dam was, that wouldn't have been a safe place to be at that hour. But I mean, but if you were looking at it for sake of a visual reference, you had the dam actually started way over to the left at the mill, and went behind what used to be the Getty station. I don't know what, it's a gas station now.
Right.
And the gas station wasn't there at the time, I understand. And then it would come over to where the Menard baseball field is, and then there was the Horseshoe Dam. The Horseshoe Dam was called that because it was
Shaped
in
like
the
a
shape of a
horseshoe.
horseshoe. It gave it more strength, and the water spilled over and the rest of that. But on the right-hand side, at the hill that went up to the cemetery, is where it breached first. And that's how we lost the hill to the cemetery, and several graves who were on the perimeter of the cemetery came down because the hill beneath it washed away. And there's, you always heard about that when you're growing up.
I did.
Oh, there was the
Caskets,
coffins floating down
floating,
the river
yeah.
and all the rest of that sort of thing. Well, in truth, that really did happen, but it wasn't the way you think it was. And I have heard from both sides saying that there was a coffin that stopped right in front of the house where they lived. And I said, "Oh, come on!
right.
Now you're pulling my leg."
Yeah.
But there were situations.
I heard a story like that. That the woman said that before her husband died, says, "When I die, I'm going to come back and haunt you if you don't do a certain thing." And she heard a loud crash. She went down in the basement. There was a casket. I don't believe that.
That
that's
sounds like an
story.
urban legend.
Yeah, that's what it is. I agree.
But
I didn't see
was
any of that in the call. I
But-
did see
Yeah.
there was a coffin at Social Square up against the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was born 20 years later, and I heard stories of this growing up.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a big event in the
It was a
city's
big
history.
event, yep.
Well, both
Absolutely.
Denise and I were alive, but we were babies, so we heard about it when we were very young people. Well, Denise was 4 days old.
I was going to ask you
I
why
was 6 months old.
I ask you why you didn't broadcast the
Yeah.
rescue operations.
Because Gene Russo was there to do it for me.
All right. I remember it.
Dear me. So thank you very much, caller. That's right. I hadn't remembered.
55.
If I'd have thought for a moment about it, I remember it. Yeah, August 19th.
Yes,
That was
that's
it.
exactly correct.
And actually, Denise wasn't even here on the continent. She was actually born. Her dad was in the army, stationed in Germany, so Nicole was actually born in Germany because that's where her mother went to be with her dad when
Denise.
he was stationed in the service. In
You,
Army,
you
yeah.
meant Denise, right? When you
Yeah,
said
Denise,
Nicole,
yeah.
right? Okay.
So Denise was not around to see the flood at all. She heard the
Okay.
stories too, but I was around.
But you know, it developed as a result of this terrible
yes. Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, the
enormous
flood control
project.
project really works. I mean, it does. They did a great job.
Yeah, yeah.
We haven't had one of those since that
We
we've
have,
had.
yes,
Yeah,
we have
and
never
we're-
had that kind of a flood again
No.
in Woonsocket since. On the other hand, one part of a community that didn't go along with the Army Corps of Engineers has had serious flooding ever since. That's down there in Ashton. Ashton or Valley Falls?
It's in,
village of Cumberland.
it's in Cumberland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Martin Street, that area down
Yeah,
there.
of course. Where the
Is
racquetball
that
place
Ashton
is.
or is it Valley Falls?
I think it's
forgot.
Ashton.
Yeah.
I think.
So many villages, I can't keep track.
They all have their own zip codes, just like your hometown.
Right.
Well, your former hometown.
Not anymore.
Burrellville.
Not anymore.
You can't
3
go-
zip codes in Burrellville.
You can't go to
Used to
Burrellville.
be 10.
You can't mail a letter to Burrellville, Rhode Island. There's no
Yeah.
such place.
You never could.
In the post, they don't have a zip code.
You never could.
That's crazy.
Is
You
it?
never could. But when I was growing
I
up,
know.
you could
I know.
send it to Pasco,
Yep.
Oakland, Mapleville, Glendale, Nasonville, Harrisville, Mohegan,
Wow.
and Bridgeton had
Bridgeton.
folded in the 50s, so there was no post
So,
office in
what
Bridgeton.
are the 3 zip codes left? I mean, not you. What towns?
Pasco,
What, like,
Harrisville, and Oakland, Mapleville.
Okay. Okay.
It's no longer Mapleville, no longer Oakland. It used
It's
to be
Oakland. Oakland Maple.
Right, it's Oakland, Mapleville,
They married, and they kept their
Well,
maiden names.
kind of.
But we always had one zip code in Woonsocket, and
Well,
we
they
still
had that-
do.
Yes.
They share
Yeah.
they share a fire department.
That's
Oakland,
good.
Mapleville. So
That's good.
There's been a mentality there.
Absolutely. That's good.
Of course, there's been a mentality in Burrellville for a very long time, and we love Burrellville.
Oh yeah.
So they. So anyway, okay. CVS has said a few more words about their big layoff.
Yeah.
To us, it's a big layoff. To
It is.
5,000 souls who won't be working for them after October, it's a big layoff. But when you stop and consider that 300,000 people work for them, it is a small percentage
It is.
by mathematical calculation. But the human toll is far larger.
250 in this area, right? I believe.
The number I have is 200.
Okay.
200 at headquarters,
Okay.
and nobody in the stores.
Right.
They want to keep all the customer-facing people in place.
Yep.
Good.
But they said as the business is changing, there's parts of their corporate structure that aren't as important, that they're marrying with other companies that they purchased.
Like
They just,
Aetna.
they just purchased a couple of.
Don't they own Aetna insurance
Yes.
company?
Yeah, they just purchased
Yes.
a couple of companies this
Caremark.
year that were in the
Yes.
billions of dollars
Yeah.
purchase.
Yeah. Wow.
So they're getting to be pretty huge. But I guess and there's economies of scale, and if you purchase somebody that has this kind of department, you don't need it over here anymore.
So, what do you think will happen to these people that lose their jobs? The 5,000 nationwide. Will they eventually
Well,
get other jobs, or will
That's
they?
an individualized story.
But what do you-
I don't think that
what do you
it's-
think?
I don't think that the cautious person would suggest what's going to happen to all 5,000.
No.
Because it's going to be different stories for different people.
Some will retire.
Some of these people have had positions at corporate where they were able to put aside some money
Okay.
and then thoughtfully seek out what they're going to do for the rest of their working time.
And they'll probably get a very nice severance.
Yeah,
Well,
that some will
they
get,
may
some will
also
get,
get-
might get severance. Yeah.
That's right. So they will have the luxury of time
For a while-
to
for a while.
decide.
Yeah.
Some may already be lining up the next thing that they do.
Yeah.
Some, I think, will be going to Department of Labor and Training.
Well, if you're like in your 30s or 40s, it shouldn't be a problem getting a job. But if you're like a little, maybe 60 and above, those are the people that are going to have a hard time. Even though they deny that ageism exists, it does.
Oh,
And
it absolutely does.
And companies are going to be reluctant to hire executives at 61 years old, let's say, because they figure 4 years you'll be retired or whatever, 5. I don't know, I'm just maybe
and
maybe
some of those folks were still working from home.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
entirely, probably like going into the office, a few days
Yeah.
a week. So, probably transitioning to a similar lateral position at another company.
Yep.
I would think.
Well, the positions are pretty high They're pretty high up in the
Well, not
corporate
necessarily.
structure.
We don't know that for
I
sure.
think they are. That's what I heard. But the thing is,
Because everybody thinks about, the executives at CVS headquarters here in Woonsocket / Cumberland, because our
Yeah.
industrial park
Right.
straddles the line.
Right.
But quite frankly, there's an awful lot of blue-collar workers that work in there.
Yeah.
yeah, of course, in the warehouses and stuff. I understand.
Not necessarily
In the
warehouses.
stores.
We're just talking about support staff, and
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Middle management,
Okay.
lower middle management.
Well, there's a demand for workers everywhere, but the jobs that they're offering are probably not the jobs that these people would like to make up
Well,
for.
sometimes you got to do what you got to
But
do.
sometimes you got to do. What did you just say?
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And the last thing I was going to bring up is something I brought up. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to press you for quick opinions on this. Of course, the problem with student loan forgiveness that's been very much talked about nationally. I have decided what my attitude is on the whole matter, and it comes as a result of my simmering Yankee sensibilities being offended way back before I even knew I had Yankee sensibilities. I'm thinking that the federal government, I'm not saying this is a wise thing, but I'm saying if you're just looking at it on a right or wrong basis, federal government should absolve all students from all student debt, because the federal government is responsible for them having to incur that debt because of their subsidy of higher education. I was always and forever will be in favor of things like the Pell Grant.
Oh yeah.
It's not debt.
Grant is
That's
a grant.
right.
It's not a,
It's a
loan.
grant.
But it became, over the course of my adulthood, and thank goodness it wasn't like that before, it became commonplace to expected that you will go to college in order to get any decent job that isn't flipping burgers, and by that I mean a menial entry-level job with low pay. It is expected of you to incur tens of thousands, if not
Yes.
hundreds of thousands worth of debt for your education so you can have a decent life, and everyone is expected to do it. And so in come all the money lenders, and they have to get paid back.
Yes, they do.
And the federal government made this possible by their subsidy of higher education, not letting any colleges go out. I mean, there were so many colleges and very few universities years ago. Now, everything's got to be a university.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because of federal funding, because of the subsidies from federal
Well-
government. Now, I blame the federal government for the expectation of carrying this debt, and kids are just doing what they're expected to do at that age.
Yeah.
They're going to college and incurring debt.
It
And
was
so I blame the
expected.
federal
Right.
government.
It
So I
was-
say
yep.
that they're at fault.
It was absolutely expected. It was never a question in my mind and I graduated when I was
They didn't give you a
I was
second
17.
choice.
I was 17. So I'm making these decisions that were going to impact me for years. I was expected to go to college in order to get a job that was decent,
Yeah.
right? There was no option. We were going to college. If you
Yep.
didn't, then you were,
Yeah.
that's it.
Black sheep.
Yep, right. And then, okay, so you pick your college. Your parents maybe if you were middle class and your parents didn't make enough to get a grant, or you didn't apply for any of those things, you were subsidized, and you would either take out a subsidized or an unsubsidized federal student loan.
Right.
And the moment that you graduate, or the moment that you stop going to school, if you decide that like you want to, you're like 20 years old now and you're thinking like, well, I didn't really want to take this path.
Yeah.
And then your payments start, and they are beyond what you can pay. I was speaking to somebody just this past weekend. Okay, so the loan forgiveness is going to end, and next month, or rather in October, they're going to have to go back to paying $550 a month, just on their student loans.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
for anybody.
that's for anybody, right?
My only comment about all this, I know we have to go, but when I graduated from college back in 1968, that's a long time ago.
Right.
Only
PC, wasn't it?
Providence, right? Only 11% of the population of the U.S. had bachelor's degrees. Now 40% have bachelor's degrees of the American population.
Right.
So so many more people are going to
Because
college.
they're being required for
Exactly.
jobs.
And sometimes you wonder why.
Yeah. Yep.
Well-
In retrospect, did I make a foolish decision back then? Yes, but I didn't at 17 years old feel that there was any other option. The way I was raised, this is education is important. You don't not go to college.
Right.
Right? You're not taking a sabbatical, a year off, which honestly, in retrospect, I really
That's-
should have done.
That's changing.
That is changing now, and I like
Yes.
the fact that that is changing and that people are going to trade schools and doing
Yes.
other things and
Yes.
gaining skills. I think that is the best thing that can happen. We need to get away
Absolutely.
from this, like there's this one way. And then when you graduate, I didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars. I just had a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it was
It was a lot of money.
yeah. And then it affects you financially for the rest of your life
That's right.
because you owe and then you don't qualify for, Yeah. It was very predatory on the parts
Yep.
of the
So
lenders.
that's what I think. I also think, by the way, that if what I say is, I also think that the federal government does not have the wherewithal to be able to do that. But I think they're responsible for the pain and suffering of these people.
100. I agree with you.
And because of various policies over various administrations over a number of years, the federal government as an entity is responsible for the pain and suffering, and they should pay. So that's what I think. And then break up this terrible chain reaction of, oh, you have to go to college in order to get anything. Well, Denise has an uncle, grew up here in Woonsocket. He lives down in Florida now. And he would tell us, because he retired from IBM.
Yep.
And he said, oh, well, we get so many, we get so many applications every year for employment at IBM. We start at the 4.0s. Everybody else, we don't even look at. And then we go by what school they went to. And I'm saying, look at what you have built with this baloney.
Right.
All right. Well, it is time for us to go, isn't it?
And we end on an agreement.
We end on agreement.
Usual.
What do you know? I like that. Romeo, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure, as always.
All right. Safe travels, my
I'll
friend,
see
and
you
we'll
when
see you back here as soon as we can.
And thank you for Saturday. I appreciate it.
You betcha. Take care. There goes Romeo. He's on his way. Melissa, we'll catch you a little later.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Very good. Well, we did go over, but I thought it was a good discussion today. Thanks to Joe for having to be someplace else. I enjoyed myself. And we'll, if you missed any portion of it, pick it up on demand at WoonsocketRadio.com. You'll enjoy yourself, I'm sure. Next Monday, when we are here, Melissa, we will have the Director General of the Taiwanese Embassy to the United States at Boston. And Director General Liao, I believe is his name, will be with us here on the program, and he'll be talking about the Taiwanese Dragon Boat Festival coming up the following weekend.
Which is always such a fun time.
Really
it's so much fun.
fun.
That's exciting. Yeah.
All right.
Good.
All right, so that's coming up next Monday, and we had to bring in the big guns because Romeo wouldn't be here. You know, have to replace Romeo. Okay. Listen, coming up next, of course, we have a spot of news, little sports with Lou. We have the At the Library program, and then Karen Zangari as well. Gary and the gang are off today because it's Monday. We have City Council meeting tonight at 7 o'clock. Be with us right after the Tiki Bar replay. Make it a good day.
Broadcasting live and local daily from the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy Street. This is WOON Woonsocket Radio. And now, the news.
The rainy summer weather is impacting visits to Rhode Island beaches. The Department of Environmental Management reported the number of beachgoers is down 7% compared to last year. Providence area got nearly 9 inches of rain in July, and some parts of the state got even higher amounts. A tornado Friday morning lifted a car 10 feet in the air while it was traveling down Interstate 295 in Johnston on Friday morning during that storm.